All right, thanks, Ray. So as Ray said, I'm from Missouri. I'm the Soil and Water Program Director here in Missouri, recently appointed to that position as of the June 16th. I've been here in the program for several years prior to that. Let's see if I can get my slide to advance. There we go. So as Ray said, I'm going to talk about an online certification program that we've implemented here in Missouri, and it's more of an outcome from COVID than what we did during COVID. Some of the things that we did during COVID, though, was we have our Mo Swims program, which is our cost share and our financial tracking system that the districts use. We made that available outside of the state network. That way they can access it anywhere and not have to be in the USDA offices or the district offices to utilize our cost share program and to work with the landowners. The other thing we have too is we developed a web-based mapping tool that we did bring online at the same time as well too. And again, we made it available for access from anywhere as well as out in the field, collecting data whenever they are implementing practices, doing checkouts and such like that, that they can use iPads to move along as they're going along. So like I said, some things that were going on prior to COVID, but yet kind of came to light during COVID. But then, like I said, through COVID and how we do our testing, we realized we need to look at other ways to do our testing certification program that we do for our district specialists. So that's what I'm going to cover today is what we have developed here recently and just actually came online in the last couple of weeks. And so what we do with this testing, it is part of our progression line certification that we have for our district staff. And we use that to determine the amount of stipend that we provide to each of the district boards for their employees that they have in place. So here's our progression line. If anybody's been at NASCA, we've talked about this before to annual meetings and such like that. But our focus that we're talking about is these specialist testings here in the center part of the screen. We have 7 tests. And to move up the progression line, we identify, working with a committee, that they have to pass 5 of those tests. And so what we've done is bringing those tests online instead of having to do those in person. So like I said, historically, we've done these in person. We had contracted with a local university, with Lincoln University here in Jefferson City, that did the testing for us. So we had staff coming in person, it was the cost associated with that and stuff like that is what we were partly looking at it. Outside of that, recently we had started doing the testing, kind of gotten away from that contract with Lincoln. We were using them for other things, felt like we could do the testing and grading the exams, but again, it was taking time for us to work through that. And then as well too, we were maintaining a database to keep track of who was testing, when did they test, who has passed, who has not passed, what test have they passed, all that stuff. So again, time things that were coming to us as far as our staff to do some efforts towards that. And then also to talk about the cost. So we would pay for the hotel rooms, we would pay for the meals, for the district employees to come in and do the testing. So it's starting to get some significant costs for us to do these. And then also, due to the cost, we were only doing these once a quarter. And we do our allotments on a quarterly basis, and they have to have their progression line requirements met before we would provide the funding in the next quarter. So there were some limitations by us doing this once a quarter. The other thing that came out with this during COVID was we had limitations of having in-person meetings, that we couldn't do these in-person trainings. From the guidance we had from the state and from the Department of Natural Resources, we had limitations, but as well too, the limitations USDA had as far as staff that's working in the USDA offices and when could they come back to the office and things like that. So like I said, we were looking at stuff like this and okay, how can we move forward from a situation like this that we do not run into it again? And then also last year at NASCA, the staff heard a presentation. I wasn't real sure who or where it was at, but looking at some training systems for district employees, and kind of got the ball rolling in ideas, thinking, what can we do here in Missouri? And so we start testing an app to look at, could we do something along that lines, as well as there was already a program within DNR through the well driller program in Missouri for their certifications that was online. So we were able to work with IT and integrate into that system along with our MoSwims package and just link the two together. So we didn't have to create anything new. We were able to use existing infrastructure that the department was already using. So the big results that we're seeing from this is the time and money savings. Again, from my staff that would have to be working on it, trying to document who's taken the test, when have they taken it, and stuff like that, as well as making it more convenient for the district staff to take it online, sitting at their office or sitting at home, drinking their coffee, wherever they want to take this test. So here's a couple screenshots of our MoSwim system, and MoSwim stands for Missouri Soil and Water Information Management System. The top screen is before it was implemented. The bottom screen that Jake has highlighted there on the far right-hand side with the yellow circle around it is the online testing. So it's just a quick link within MoSwims. It jumps them out to another program to actually do the testing. But we use the MoSwims as documentation to determine who's taking the test because of their log on status and security levels that we have set for MoSwims. Here's a couple screenshots. Like I said, once they click on that online testing button, it takes them to this program. And here in the center part of the screen, this test selection option is where they would select what test do they want to take. So the 7 tests, when they first come in, are listed there. And as they select a test, they click on the next button. But once they have taken the test, it is removed from the selection list. So they know which ones they have already taken. So once they click the next button, it takes them on to right into the questions that we have established within the system. And what they have on the screen is they have the option to select what their answer is. And then once they have that, they would hit the select and next to move on. They can go back to the previous question. They can move forward and backward throughout this as many times as they want to. The review button gives them the option to look at all the questions in that exam. And then also it gives them a status if they've answered it or not. And then from that review option, they can actually click on that specific question and it would take them to it as well too. And then once they are finished, they would have the submit the exam button that was submitted on for the grading. Let me back up one screen. One other thing too, in this top right-hand corner is we do have a time limit for the test. They have an hour and a half to take it. And so we have a countdown, so they're aware of that as well too, because once they have hit the hour and a half time limit, it will automatically grade it where they stand. So if they don't have it completed yet, they're still going to get a grading on it. So once they either timed out or they've hit the submit button, then they get their exam results. It's an automatic grading right there and then. As soon as they hit the submit, it generates it right back to them. So they see it immediately if they passed or failed. And then from this option, they have some other options. They can have the results emailed to them. They can return back to take another test, or they can completely log out of the system. So like I said, we utilize our current MoSwim system to identify who's taking the exam. That way we tie it back to the Active Directory. We know exactly the employee that took it. It's tied to their login, their password. It's all connected just for that individual. But then, like I said before, the other benefits we're seeing is the exams are available 24/7. They can take it at their convenience. They don't have to travel to Jefferson City. Some of them are, 4 or 5 hours away. It saves time there. As I already mentioned, they do have a time limit on each one. But the other thing too, like I said, some of the time features is it's automatically graded whenever it's completed. And I already mentioned that second bullet point there too. It's automatically graded. If they do leave the page, it's set just like that. we developed the test questions. And so we have a bank of test questions established so that each test is not the same. So like if we're taking a financial test, one person goes in and take it, and another person takes it, there will be similar questions, but they're not all exactly the same question for each test. And the same way too is if they retake. So like on that last bullet point there, if they do fail a test, they're locked out of the system for 7 days. So that way they're not just sitting there taking screenshots of the questions and such like that and coming right back into it and okay, now I can work through it type thing. Put some limitations on it. But again, like I said too, if they do come back in, there's going to be different questions that pop up. As far as the results, we do receive an email automatically for the program when an employee does take the test. So it helps us to manage as well too the documentation needed to help support the stipend change along the progression line that we provide each quarter. This next bullet point on a portal and the reports, we're still working on that. We don't have that quite worked out yet, but it's still an option that we can see a summary of all the results. And then the other thing is, as program staff, program office staff, we have the ability to administer the test questions. We can go in and add, delete, edit. You know, that's not tied back to IT. We have the capability to do that. It allows us to manage the database without having to rely back on IT. For the most part, IT should be done with this, other than working on the report side of it. You know, we're, like I said, we just came up live with it here in the last 2 weeks and already had several district employees have utilized it. So that's one good thing. We do not have to rely on IT to help manage it to moving forward. The other thing, looking down the road, that we may have to look at IT to help us with a little bit, part of it depends on how they do have it set up already, is that we can incorporate links to some videos and other training materials so that we can look at a broad, comprehensive learning management system for district employees in the future. And so, like I said, what we've worked on here is because of the results of COVID and the limitations of what we had, and we're trying to look forward, moving down the future to have more access for our district employees. So quick summary of what we moved forward with, Ray.